Alright, so welcome to Geeks on Cloud, the first episode on the API management. In this video, we will briefly go through what is API management and what are the uses of it. So, what are APIs? There are a lot of APIs being exposed to different applications. There might be some other all the existing ones or the ones that you are using within your organization to communicate in your organization, other services or devices. So all these things can be connected through an API management service. Now, there are a lot of advantages of using API management services, and we will go through them each by each along with the features, right? So basically, one of the most important things is protecting your APIs. Now, the organization might have different APIs done by different set of developers, different set of teams, or different set of other organizations. Now, if you are going to handle authentication for each and every API in a different way, that's going to be a little bit of a tricky task. Now, how you can do this? You can have multiple inbound policies, outbound policies, and all these things set up within yourself through the API management service. So the authentication and authorization, as well as some throttling limits, can be applied within the API management service itself. And another cool feature is now if you look at the business application development process. Now, if we take a mobile application or a web application, there might be two parties who are involved in the development process. One party is called the front end developers, and the other party is called the back end developers. The back end developers might be creating Azure functions or the containerized workloads or some other REST based APIs, and then the app developers might need to consume them or wait for them to build them until they can try out and get their apps working. Now this is a time consuming process because one party has to wait for another, but that can be easily reduced. The effort can be easily reduced and the waiting time can be reduced by having some mock requests. So how are we going to do that? We can create an API management service, and inside the API management service we can create the APIs that the developers will be accessing as same as when they are actually are. So what happens is rather than just waiting for the real request to come in, you can create mock requests. So that means mock responses will be going to the app developers from the other end. So if you can agree on a payload to be having these set of properties and so on, and if you can agree the response to be on this JSON format, then both the parties can work simultaneously and achieve the organization goal and reduce the development time very easily. So that's also possible with the API management service. And there are also other facilities like sharing with the teams. You can try out the API itself by using the interface. You get a cool interface to set up the parameters to the endpoint and try it out and go run through each and every step of the API process, which we'll be discussing later in the videos. And you can actually if you look at this diagram, you can see there are DB services out there and different set of services, and all of them are coming through the API management service to the client applications. Now there can be transactions being processed through the banks or the other different uh, sources, and you can have some other VPNs that are protecting these things, and the API management service can access them securely and expose based on the security parameters defined. It can be a subscription key, it can be a JWT token, or it can be some other mechanism that you prefer in your API endpoint itself. And then you have many options for securing your APIs. For example, you can keep all the APIs behind a single static IP or domain, and they can be protected with the subscription keys or the tokens or based on the other IP filtering. And also you can define quotas, so not all the APIs will be accessible outside, as well as they might have some limits when being accessed outside. So likewise, there are a lot of features available. We will go through the video series and explore each and every one of them. And if you're willing to get started, there is a pretty much detailed documentation available here, so you can have a look at all these guidelines and read through what are the possibilities and so on. So the reason that I used this documentation itself as an example was that's well formatted. For if you are starting off, rather than just looking through PowerPoints, come here and read through each and everything, and you will be guided very well. Right, so with that in mind, let's go and create an API. So creating is very easy. I am going to my Azure portal and I will search for API management, right? So I can see the API management service template here. Now when I create button, it shows me the set of fields that I need to fill in to get started effective immediately. Most of the fields up here might be familiar to you. Basically we need to create a public endpoint here. I will create it as Malin demo something like 5. It should be unique across all the subscriptions. Later you can make the domain mappings and get it done based on your requirement. And the subscription, resource group, location, I'm leaving them as it is. These are pretty much common across most of the Azure resources that you are going to create. And I'm setting up organization names, say Geeks on Cloud. Right. So what is organization name? So specify the name of your organization for the use in the developer portal and email notifications. So this one will be used for the notifications and for the development perspectives. Now I am leaving this as my administrator email as it is, and here's option for the pricing tier. Now if you want to look at the API management service pricing, there are quite a lot of options available. As you can see, 5 already here, starting from the developer, which is around 48 USD, and going to premium, which is having 99.95% service level backed agreement, which is about 2800 USD. And the consumption based options are also there. It's having some rates based on 10,000s of calls based on the region. Now if you look at it, the developer pricing tier is not SLA covered, but it will be a good option for getting started. So basically it has a 10 MB cache and maximum 500 RPS available. And as you go on with the other production, basic, standard and premium ones, things get better. And as you can see here in the premium tier, it has 5 GB caches per unit. So I will move with the developer option, but if you want to go ahead with enterprise level API management within your organization, there are plenty of options available for that as well. Now I will select it as it is, and then if I need, I can enable application insights, which I don't need right now, and then hit the create button. Now this might take a little bit of while and should get it created in the background. So in the next video we will go through the API management service options available inside. So stay tuned and subscribe to Geeks on Cloud, and stay tuned for new videos